What got you into the 3D crystal product and how it all started for you?
So I probably lost like $10,000-15,000. All these crystals I just had to throw away.
There's many people out there that will buy a laser, they'll get screwed because they didn't do their homework well.
I'll definitely tell them what not to do.
Okay. We were talking about the laser machine. You were talking about the multi-mode. You know, we've talked about raw material. Fantastic. Very important point. People might kind of not realize how significant it is. You talked about the laser and why the 3D laser box has serviced your needs and kind of put you in a position to be able to compete quite strongly in your country.
It feels like a cheat code, you know, it's crazy.
Maybe we can just go to the beginning. Hey everyone, Riaz Datu here with 3D Crystal and Cockpit3D, and today I'm very pleased to have Lawrence and Dimitri. Dimitri's joining us from quite a far place from where we're located. Dimitri, why don't you share your location?
Hey everyone, so the location is Auckland, New Zealand. The company is Good Gift, and the website is goodgift.co.nz.
So like I was saying earlier, pre the taping here, is that it was always exciting when we expanded. We started in a city and then moved out to a state, and that was kind of the first milestone of celebration. And from the state, it went to the the nation, and then to the North America, and now of course you can see it in many places around the world. So Dimitri, we're very excited to have you here to share your story with us. Also very excited to have you part of our ecosystem, and I thought maybe it would be interesting for people that are perhaps considering getting into a venture, getting into business, then of course probably watching us because they've considered.
I'll tell them. So I'll definitely tell them what not to do.
Okay.
Just wanted to let everybody know how it started a couple of years ago, how I got into the 3D crystal business. So 2 years ago, I was just buying and reselling cars full time. And then a friend of mine sent me some photos of this 3D crystal. He was on holiday in USA. The problem with cars is that even if you have 10, 20 cars, you have a car dealership, it's like you don't really have much work to do. You know, you have maybe 1 or 2 clients a day and that's it. So always sort of having like a side business, sort of like that I could do and develop a business every day. So I saw that product and I got pretty interested. I've never seen anything like it. So it's like, it doesn't exist in New Zealand. I get pretty interested. I flew to China, actually, just before COVID. And I flew to Wuhan, where the COVID started. I thought it was pretty easy. I was like, okay, I'll just buy a new laser. I'll buy crystals. I'll bring it here. And, I'll make this 3D crystal. I just found like a company on Alibaba and I went to them. So they showed me the product and I was like really amazed by how it looked. Now looking back, I realized that the product was not good at all. It was a really low quality compared to what I have now, but I still was amazed. It's just how good the product is. So I bought the laser, bought some crystals, and it just started in 2020.
And what are you focusing on? Is it mainly online? Are you do you have resellers like the stores that you're placing your product in? How's it going for you?
It's going really well now. It really started going well last year, 2021, around August. That's when I realized I could sell a lot, just before the Father's Day. So I mainly sell online through my website. I have some setups at different stores in the malls. The existing businesses, I just give them the product, they display it, and then they sell it for commission.
I know that Dimitri purchased another laser that he actually, it's quite, you have to be commended for the fact that you actually hopped on a plane and went down and kind of did a bit of due diligence. I think that one of the learnings that I would say just from observing what you're saying here is the question that people need to ask when they're shopping for a laser is not necessarily how good is your laser, but what could go wrong. So when you're dealing with the manufacturer, you really want to understand from them what are the problems others have faced with your laser. And if they're going to tell you that there are no problems or everybody loves my laser, that's a red flag. That's the first thing, is find out what can go wrong. And then the second thing is that many times, and this is, an unfortunate habit, but what will happen is that they will show product that is not necessarily the same quality of product that you're going to get from the system that you're purchasing. Because Dimitri, you already walked this path. But
Yeah, I went. It was a really hard way for me. I could have made it. I could have made it easy, but I made it really hard, and I can kind of share with people how not to make it hard.
That's what motivates us to really publish content on this channel, is that the number of stories I have from people that have made the wrong decision, because it's so easy to be taken by what looks to be a very professional presentation of a laser or a company. But really, at the end of the day, either they're just flipping it over, so they're buying and flipping, and they aren't the manufacturers, they're not able to support you, or they are a manufacturer, but not very long-lived, because they'll sell as much as they can and then close down that company and open up another one. So you got to be very careful when you're purchasing lasers. Dimitri is one person that actually has, even through COVID, he got in just before COVID. Talk about timing, right? And then through COVID, not knowing any of the business, was able to hang in there, survive, and buy a second laser. And he survived. But there's many people out there that'll buy a laser, they'll get screwed because they didn't do their homework well, and that's it. They've lost the shirt off their back.
It's not just the laser that was wrong. Also, the crystals that I bought were wrong. So everything that I bought was wrong. So I bought a laser from the factory in China, and they manufacture their own lasers. I was pretty young and naive, I would say. I thought everything is easy. You just buy things, you just buy that, buy crystals, buy laser, and just make a crystal and sell it. It's not that easy. So to anyone who is looking to do 3D crystal business or any sort of business that has to do with China, you have to be extremely careful with suppliers over there. You have to be super strict and super straightforward in terms of like what you want and how you want the product to look, because you'll get in a lot of trouble. So I bought the laser, and I didn't know anything about the 3D crystal business because it doesn't exist in New Zealand. Usually people would go and work for a company, for a certain business. It's like they would work for a 3D crystal store, for example, for ureas, and then people would learn the trade from the inside, and they would go and set up their own business. For me, it was different. I didn't know the product. I didn't know the lasers. I didn't know the software. I didn't know any sort of aspects of the business, and I just jumped in. So of course, I lost a lot of money at first, because the laser that I bought could only engrave at once, I think, 50 millimeters by 80 millimeters. And nobody told me that if you want to engrave more than 50 by 80, the image or the model would have to be split into different blocks, and then it has to be engraved block by block. And then between those blocks, you would have the gaps and the lines, and it's not going to look good. Nobody told me that in China. Yeah, that's the first problem I had, because I bought the small crystals and I bought the large ones as well, but nobody told me that I couldn't engrave the large ones. And then on top of that, I think I bought 1,000 or like 1,500 crystals, and all of them had small air bubbles inside. So when you have an air bubble inside of a crystal, the laser cannot go through. So for example, if you're engraving somebody's face, the laser cannot burn through the air bubble. So you have like a hole in somebody's face. To some people, it might sound, oh, it's like 1,000 crystals, who cares? Well, each crystal is like $5, $6, $7. For each crystal, you have an LED stand, which were rubbish as well. So I probably lost like $15,000. All these crystals I just had to throw away. The crystals were not good. They were also different sizes. All of them were different sizes. For example, 50 by 80 would be like 48 by 52. And another one would be like 52 by, 45.
So you have to the viewers, why does that matter? Why someone's going to say, oh, that's just 4 millimeters. Why?
No. With the laser, you have to be extremely precise. So if you have a crystal and the size is like 50 millimeters by 80, in your software, you always put like the size of a crystal before you burn. So if you put 50 by 80, but the actual crystal is like 48 by 80, then the image is going to be to the side. Like, it's going to think it's 50, but it's actually 48. the laser is going to think it's 50, but the actual crystal is 48. So the image is not going to be right in the center. And it could be a huge problem because sometimes it's so far off. Like instead of 50, the crystal would be like 45 millimeters. So the laser would actually start burning the side of the crystal and crack it. So it was a nightmare, really.
So I'm hearing kind of three main things that you had to tackle from a learning curve perspective. Getting the right raw materials, getting the right blank crystals, no air bubbles.
Super
one
important.
thing.
Super important.
Secondly, you had to learn the laser itself, and you had to learn the laser interface software. Was it even in English? You can answer that in a minute. Did you get a manual? Was there any training from the manufacturer? So there was learning curve from the laser hardware perspective. And then you've also mentioned software. Now the software there's twofold. There's the laser interface software, and then we'll get to the software that we've provided to you. So just kind of putting our arms around it. There's the raw materials you had to learn about. There's the laser operation you had to learn about. And then there's the software you had to learn about. If we could just put our arms around it.
There's also conversions as well. There's like a forward, but I mean, in terms of, you mentioned manual, like to anyone who is looking to purchase any sort of laser or any sort of equipment from China, before you purchase anything, please guys, just ask the salesperson for a manual for that product and have a look at the manual. Is it in English or is it in Chinese? Or is it a Chinese person that speaks English and you can't even understand what they're saying? Just ask. That's because I don't have just the 3D crystal lasers. I have all sorts of different machinery. I have fiber, I have other things. And what I've learned over the 2 years, ask for manual first and see how clear they can explain how to set up the laser or machinery and how easy it is. Because if the manual is not good, if a company can't even provide a proper manual in English, most likely the actual laser is not going to be good either. I've purchased the wrong laser, that's one. And then in terms of raw materials, for the 3D crystal, I overlooked the raw materials, and you can't really do that either. As I mentioned, the size and dimensions, they have to be exactly the same. If it's 50 by 80, it has to be 50 by 80. It can't have any air bubbles inside. Also, sometimes when they manufacture the crystals, you can't see it, but sometimes in the crystal, there's some sort of like hard lines. Have you guys experienced it?
We call it tiger striping.
That's another thing. Like you engrave somebody's face or engrave like a selfie of people, and they have just lines in their face because the manufacturing of raw materials, the quality of it wasn't good enough.
There's a couple of things I want to tell the viewers here. Okay, Dimitri has shared a lot of information in terms of kind of what he went through. A few things. First of all, we're not obviously here to talk about the brand that he bought first and the company who provided that technology and that he had issues with. What we are here to say is that make sure that you know how to do your homework. The second machine that Dimitri has purchased after that was the 3D laser box. And the 3D laser box, as you know, we don't manufacture. So why am I mentioning 3D laser box? Why am I somewhat giving some encouragement towards that? It's because people many times want to know which laser am I using. So the laser that I'm using, our entire fleet now has switched over to the 3D laser box. And here's why, is that for the 3D laser box, first of all, we are supplying and supporting the software side. So we make sure that the interface on 3D laser box, and it's amazing how important this is because you spend a lot of time utilizing the interface. You want to make sure it's user-friendly, not just for you, but as you grow for your staff as well. You want seasonal staff.
That's super important.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want seasonal staff to be able to use that software with limitation and errors and really not feeling uncomfortable or intimidated to use that system because of how complicated it is jumping from one screen to another to get that final file right. Okay, so we've supported them on the software side. That's number one. Number two, as Dimitri mentioned, he talked about blocking. What did he mean by that? He meant that unless you run your file through another processor that splits your file into blocks, you're not able to burn a larger crystal. And so what this does is not only is it again another hop that your staff has to make, another jump or leap that they have to take to being able to complete the steps needed to burn, but also it affects the quality of the final burn, because now when it's burning it in tiles or blocks, these become noticeable. Of course, depending on how good the manufacturer of the laser is, sometimes they're able to disguise it creatively. But again, it takes longer and quality is definitely sacrificed. So the 3D laser box is enabling you to burn not just 80 millimeters, it's enabling you to
Yeah,
up to 200 millimeters
200 by 200. Yeah.
without ever requiring to do this step of blocking or burning in tiles. And because it's swinging the full 200 millimeters, it means that the table doesn't have to move to the next tile, which means that you're saving a lot of time. So what would have maybe taken 45 minutes to burn is now taking 15 minutes to burn. What would have taken 2.5 hours to burn is now getting done in like 50, 60 minutes. Okay, so it's time. And then the other thing is one thing that, Dimitri, I'm not sure if you use the multi-mode feature. Do you use that at all?
Of course I use
Okay.
it. Once, so the thing is, like, once I used the multi-mode first, I realized that I actually have a business here, because like people don't know, but like most of the lasers, like when you burn a crystal, you have to burn it one by one. So for example, like last year, Christmas, I would have like 30 orders. I would wake up like 9 a.m. in the morning. I have 10 orders already. It's crazy in Christmas. So, you know, by midday, you have like 20 orders. So you need to make 20 crystals. And, you know, you go to software, you prepare the models, you prepare the crystals, and then you have to put it one by one. It seems like, you know, it's okay, but when you make 30 crystals a day, it takes a lot of time to open the machine, to put a crystal, to close it, then, you know, set up the software, open the second model, and do it 30 times over. So with the latest laser that I got, there's a feature called multi-mode where you can engrave 6 or 8 crystals at the time. You put in the software, different shapes, different sizes, different pictures. For example, you have 8 different orders, you load them all in, and then you put 8 crystals in there. You know, you start, and then you just go. And 2 hours later, or like 1.5 hours later, you don't have to touch it. So you have 8 crystals engraved. Once I saw that feature, I realized that, like, this year for Christmas, I really have a proper business where I can make proper money, because I engrave jewelry as well, and now I'm going to different products with the UV printer. So it's amazing that you can put 6 or 8 crystals, depending on the size, in the laser, and then just leave for 2 hours and focus on printing labels or packaging or doing other products, like in my business. So it really is, it feels like a cheat code, you know. It's crazy. So now it's like it's too easy.
Let's move into the whole process of taking that photo that a customer has submitted to you through your website or through the stores that you do, and getting that into final format for the laser.
Yes, so that's actually probably the most important thing. So actually taking a photo and creating a beautiful 3D model that's well optimized for your laser. Because you could have the most expensive laser in the world, but if your 3D artist doesn't make the model look good, it's not going to be good. So originally, with the first laser that I purchased 2 years ago, they gave me a software where you could create a 3D model yourself, but the software was not good enough. And then it would take you probably like half an hour to an hour to convert each photo from, you know, a photo to a 3D model. So it's just, if you have 10 orders, you'll spend 10 hours doing that. So that's not good enough. And then I found a company that were doing conversions, 3D conversions. So you would send them the photos and they would, you know, send you the 3D models. But again, it was a small company, not really well known. So half of the conversions were not opening, another half was like the texture was missing, the images weren't optimized. It was a nightmare. And then since I started working with you guys beginning of the year, that's when I said that I realized that I have a proper business, because not only I have the laser now, I have a beautiful platform, the Cockpit3D.com, with your artist. The interface is really, really easy to use. And well, 99.9% of jobs are just absolutely amazing. Now you have optimization, image enhancement, so I really don't have to do anything, because before I would have to take each image, optimize the dark colors so they could be seen well in the crystal, like enhance the photo, but now I just send it through and I get the beautiful 3D model back. So yeah, that's very important.
Well, you can't imagine how much it means to hear that, because it's one thing when Lawrence and I are out there talking about what we offer, but to hear a customer, a user of the software, like yourself, share that perspective, it really means the world. It puts all the effort that we are allocating to these projects. It really makes it worthwhile. So I definitely appreciate what you're saying. The goal here has been able to, Dimitri saying that, if he were to do it himself, now there's people that like to tinker. And so if you want to do conversions yourself, by all means, if you're running this as a hobby, maybe you don't.
No, you don't want to do it, guys. You don't want to do it. you don't want to do it.
So Dimitri, explain to folks. So when you download your completed conversion order from our portal,
yes,
you've
yes.
uploaded the picture that the customer sent you. Your order's ready. You download. You get 2 files back. So explain to folks. You get the point cloud, and then you get a CI scene file that you open in our software.
Yeah, I don't get. Yes, thank you. I don't get point clouds. I just get the file for Cockpit3D. So first of all, as I said, guys, you do not want to convert photos to 3D yourself. You spend probably 2-3 years learning how to do that. And then in the end of the day, you'll burn your printer, you'll throw everything that you bought, and you'll close your business. Because if you can use other companies' expertise, and if it's so affordable like it is, at Cockpit3D.com, just don't waste your time, because that was my mindset, and that was the mistake that I made. I was like, oh, I'm so smart, I'll learn everything myself, I'll buy my own laser, I'll do that, I'll get my own 3D artist. No, you'll spend a lot of time doing it, and then you won't actually make money out of it. If there's another company like Cockpit3D and they do conversions for you, they've been doing it for 20 years, they've been developing lasers, they've gone through all these problems. Just why not use their services instead and save your time? And then the software as well. I didn't talk about the software. If I compare my previous software that I got from my Chinese supplier and Cockpit3D, it's like comparing like Microsoft Paint and Adobe Photoshop. It's like it's a different level of software. And actually Cockpit3D integrates with Photoshop, so you have full control over the texture and everything. It really is hard to explain, kind of like to people that never, like for example, they've never burnt a crystal, like how amazing it is. You really kind of have to go through all the problems that I've had with this business over the last 2 years until I came to you guys. You really have to go through all these problems to understand how amazing it is. And yeah, that's just what it is.
I'd just like to end it on that note, man. Like, what I know to be ending it on. That was brilliant. Dimitri, I got to thank you so much for coming on. You're sharing your story, and I know sometimes a lot of people are not comfortable doing that. So thank you very much for doing that. Thank you for supporting what we do so vocally. For those that are watching, I would just like to say that we're trying to provide you with solutions that'll enable you to enter this business. with the least amount of resistance and the least amount of challenges and difficulty. And so if you have any questions, just send them on. You can either put comments on the channel, you can email us, and one of our team members will be more than happy to provide you with guidance and even hop on to a live meeting with you. You might even have the opportunity to speak to Lawrence and hear from him and all the different tips and tricks that he can give you from many people around the world that he's done some coaching for. So thank you, Dimitri. Thank you, Lawrence.
I just wanted to also thank Dimitri. It's a pleasure to know you, and it's a pleasure to be the face and the voice between you and the rest of the company. I know you don't get access to Mr. Riaz as often as you'd like, probably. So I appreciate you.
No, thank you so much, guys. And as I said, like the reason I came on today is that I feel like I have to tell people how amazing it is. Just because I kind of feel like, I'm just getting, I don't know, too much of a good software, too much of good everything for free. So I kind of have to pay back and and try to explain to people how amazing it is.
Lawrence, Microsoft Paint versus Adobe Photoshop.
I love it.
No, that's
I love it.
Amen to that.
I've already got a new slide created for my next presentation.
That was awesome.
No,
I love it.
that's what it is.